All right, everybody, welcome. Episode 2. I can't tell if you're being serious right now. Today I have a very special guest, my bro, my friend. We've known each other since 1973.
Yes. Two
Two
years before
bread.
I was born.
That's right. Two bread, Tom Wells.
Thank
How
you,
you doing,
Sam.
Tom?
I'm good. Thank you for having me here.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
coming.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for coming. So here on this podcast, we talk a lot about everything and anything. But it would seem like the way that the first one went, it's I mean, I'm willing to go anywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I'm willing to dive deep.
Got
Right?
you.
I'm willing to have the conversations.
Conversations.
That's right.
People want to hear.
And Tom, there's something about you that brings out of me someone who really appreciates the drama of life, you know.
Absolutely.
And so maybe you could tell people a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Tom. 47 years old. Lived in Big Bear since 19. Oh, do you want people to know where you live?
Okay.
Sorry. You have to edit that.
Keep it in. We're keeping that.
Big Bear since '96. I grew up down in Harbor City, California, in Los Angeles. I have a wife and 4 kids, 3 grandkids.
Woohoo!
Just living life. Nothing too crazy. Go to work and hang out.
Heck yeah. And that's where we met. We worked together.
Yes. Yes.
You know, so that's pretty good. Well, that's cool. And something about yourself, you're really into video games,
Correct.
right? But not in like the live in your mom's basement kind of
No.
way. You're a little bit more official about it, aren't you?
I don't know about official, but I have a very understanding wife.
Right,
so
right.
she allows me to, I guess, hoard pretty much
Okay.
video games in a way, but I more curate them, I guess, is a better
Okay.
way. I try to keep them nice and for future generations, I guess you could say. My grandkids
it's
and
the
stuff.
archives.
Yeah, the archives.
The Jedi archives. That's awesome.
I don't know if they're that good, but yes.
Do you know how many video games you own, roughly?
Roughly about 6,000.
Ladies and gentlemen.
It's a little much, but you know.
See, he's not just throwing it on the hard drive. He's got the actual copies.
Yeah, these are all physical games, over 6,000 individual games.
Heck
So,
yeah, that's
yeah.
cool. And how many consoles?
I don't even know.
Just a lot.
Dozens.
Yeah.
A lot. I don't have all of them, but I have dozens of them.
That's
And,
pretty cool.
stuff from when I was a kid all the way through the more modern things. And
Right. Cool, man.
pretty cool.
When did that begin? When did
I
that
mean,
fascination begin?
I've always been into video games ever since I was a kid. You know, my family, we had an Atari. So my dad would play with us, and even my dad would take us to the arcades and stuff. We had a liquor store across the street from our house that had games, and he would take us across there and play.
Nice.
And then I just always kept them, and I stopped playing for a while because I was really into sports, and I didn't play as much then. But now I have a lot more free time, so I got back into it more, and so I just have always loved them. I mean, I like to read books also and watch movies, and video games to me is kind of like playing a movie or playing a book.
Right.
So they kind of all go together to me.
Right.
More ways to explore worlds that you like.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't normally do, you know. So.
Yeah, I really appreciate that too about video games. I mean, I've played probably like 15 video games in my entire life, so I'm not quite as understanding.
But you get what I'm saying, though.
But I totally do. Like the games that I really like the Knights of the Old Republic games.
Great games.
That's such a solid story.
Yes.
You know, it's such an immersive thing where you're like, you feel like a Jedi.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely. Yeah, there's some games that are just mindless, and those are fun too, just time consumers. But the ones that are like the stories that you remember after you're done playing it, those are the ones that you remember the longest. You know.
Right.
That was one of the best ones, I think, anyways.
Yeah. Oh, that's one of the best.
I love Knights of the Old Republic. As far as Star Wars games go, it's probably one of my favorite.
Heck yeah. What do you think about the second one? Are they both?
Part 2, they were both good.
Yeah.
Part 2 introduced some pretty cool characters. They did improve on some of the aspects of the first one, I think. But the first one was just that initial like journey into that world, kind of like why it stuck with me more, I guess. But I did enjoy both of them a lot.
Right.
So I do recommend them if you haven't played them.
Heck yeah.
Especially
go get it.
Absolutely. Star Wars needs the money, so go buy it. Disney.
Yeah, totally. They're kind of struggling right now.
Yeah.
For those of you who haven't heard of this, it's like an underground like story. No, I don't know. What would you say is the best video game, or maybe
my
one
favorite,
of your favorites?
My favorite video game. It's a toss-up probably between Resident Evil 1 and 2. The original ones that came out on PlayStation 1 are very close to me because I love horror movies and stuff, and zombie movies in particular. So Resident Evil kind of was like, it scratched that itch that they didn't really have in video games, really. And but as far as like nostalgia goes, it would be probably the original Legend of Zelda on the NES.
Heck
I
yeah.
remember those games and that game, and then the sequel. But the first one was the first game that I remember like playing, acting like I was sick, so my parents would let me stay home from school so that I could play.
Nice, nice.
So I don't know if that's a good thing. Kids don't do that, but
Not an endorsement.
that's the disclaimer.
Yeah, yeah. Right on.
But yeah, those two are. But there's a lot of great games that have come out. I mean, the industry is insane now. It's up there almost with like Hollywood as far as stories and
Right.
just the amount of stuff that's out there. But those ones are the ones that stick with me.
Right on.
So, yeah.
Is there a video game apart from your favorite personal that you're like, this is probably objectively one of the best video games ever made?
Yeah, Baldur's Gate 2 for the PC.
Wow.
Probably be one of them because I'm just a big nerd. I've always been, you know.
Woohoo!
But
Yeah.
yeah, I love Dungeons and Dragons, and I should have said Baldur's Gate as one of the series that I like. It's just so hard for me because there's so much that I like about video
Right.
games. But
Sure.
Baldur's Gate 2 is, if you're into those types of games, the turn-based RPG,
Right.
tactical, I guess it would be. Though it's probably the best, I think. Anyways, I mean, there may be newer things. I'm old, so like those ones stick with me more. But there's
Right.
been so many that have come out since then that kind of use that same model, I guess. And,
Right.
But that one was a good, really, really good game. And part 3 is out, and it finally goes. It's in the early access right now, but on August, like almost around my birthday, it actually comes out legit.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
I'm looking
man.
forward to that. That'll be good.
Yeah, that's legit.
But yeah, what about you?
Oh, dude. I mean, Knights of the Old Republic is legit.
Mm.
I like things that are more of like artistic statement, and so like there's that game Ico or
Yeah.
Eco, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
And Shadow of the Colossus.
Shadow of the
like,
Colossus. Yeah, those are good games.
I heard those were. I mean, they are video games. Like
Yeah.
there is a story. There's things you got to do, mechanics, puzzles, all that. But like the artwork and the music and like the tones, like the vibes and everything, it's like really. I don't know. I really appreciate it.
No, absolutely, they have a pretty big following. Like people do respect those games in the video gaming circles, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're good games. They're somewhat difficult at times,
Yeah.
but
Frustrating.
they're good games.
Especially like I just downloaded, on the PS3 because I'm old school with the PS3 now. No, but I downloaded Ico and I was trying to beat through it and I was like, I knew what to do at this one part, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to do this, and it just wasn't working. And I was like, no, I don't want to like flake out and look up how to
Google
do it.
yeah.
But like I went all different ways. I went back and all this stuff, and I googled it, and they're like, yeah, that's just a glitch in the game. You just have to like do it a bunch of times.
And
until it
eventually
works.
delete.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that sucks.
That's how the older games were when there weren't patches and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like now, if a game is, usually you buy a game and day one you put it in the system. There's a patch for it already to fix stuff that people have found. So
Right. I mean, so many eyes on it.
yeah, those older games, PS2 didn't have patches. They didn't. It had online support, but they weren't downloading patches to games or anything. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
For sure.
that was the good old days of gaming when you put in hours into a game, then you get to a part where you just can't get past it because of a glitch and there's nothing you could do about it.
Right. Okay, I guess this is the end of the game.
Yeah, that's not unintentionally the end of the game, but
Right.
yeah, those are the good old days.
Have you heard of some of those crazy like end screen things on like arcade games that kill the game so you can't keep going? You know what I'm talking about? Like on Pac-Man, I guess if you get to level like some crazy like 300 or something, it'll like glitch the screen so it's impossible to see where you are.
Oh,
Things like that.
probably gets too hot.
Oh right.
So I remember Ikari Warriors for the original NES. Your NES would get so hot from playing it because back then there was no saving or like continuing or anything like that. You would just played, and the NES would get so hot that the game would freeze, and then
that's it.
That's it. Start
done.
over and hopefully I don't know how you keep the thing from getting all hot. Maybe I don't know, put it in the fridge or something. But.
Right.
Yeah, there was I don't think they realized how big the industry was going to grow back then. So a lot of people. It is gone. It's insane how big it's gotten. Like right now, it's almost at its peak as far as back in the '80s when the arcades first came out, like Atari and stuff. It was pretty legit. Like a lot of people were into it, but now I think it's like its own world now. Before it was almost like a sub world to like just
Right.
other things, and now it's just grown into its own entity, and like I said, rivaling Hollywood pretty much. It's
Oh yeah.
$1 million games and stuff. It's pretty crazy.
No kidding.
It's pretty awesome to be able to be around to see it
Yeah.
from the early days of like Pong.
Yeah, because you're an
all
OG,
the way,
huh?
I don't know about that, but all the way through to now, you know, to where they're like it's like playing a movie. The graphics are so ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And the impact on culture can be seen in a lot of things. It's pretty nuts. It's
Right.
to even think about that.
I think
Like that.
I think for better and for worse.
Oh, absolutely.
It's kind of easy to write off video games as like, oh, well, that's just like what kids do or something.
Yeah.
I think also though, I mean, like you said, it isn't like an art form.
Yeah.
And so it's and I mean, where would we be in society as like a whole like world and different cultures and stuff without our stories,
Absolutely.
without our art? You know what I'm saying? And I really like. I mean, I'm all about like artistic stuff. Like I was just
I
mentioning.
know you for sure.
And
Definitely.
yeah, I think there's something about it that really captivates. You know, the I guess like the human story, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some of the games nowadays definitely tackle like real life situations. A lot of it is fantasy stuff, which is
Right.
what most people like. But I mean, there are some that are like everyday issues that they deal with in the games. You know, as far as
Right.
like death and relationships and stuff like that.
Right.
I think in a way, sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's a little unrealistic for people. I mean, people like believe too much into stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it should be all taken obviously as entertainment and not to heart. People get very upset about stuff.
Yeah.
And in
You
moderation
killed off my
too.
favorite
Yeah, exactly. I
character.
hate you.
Yeah.
But like, and for kids, like, you know, I don't think they should play too much as children. Like, you know, in moderation, go outside and play
Right.
some sports, or you know, learn how to play guitar or something else. You know, but
Right. I'm with that.
I'm all for games, and but for kids in moderation. As you become an adult, obviously, you make your own decisions. But
Right.
kids, go do things other than video games. They are fun. They are amazing. But go outside, have some fun before you're too old and it's hard to go outside.
Right. And then maybe play some video games.
Yeah, then you can play video games all you want when you're retired.
But live.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I played this one game. It was a long time ago. It was like on. It was just like on one of those websites. You know, I don't know. You know, you got like the one that I was on when I was like in high school was epicninja.com. You know, and that was where you go on for all like
They like the Flash games.
yeah, Flash games and stuff like that. And they had, you know, like keyboard Guitar Hero and stuff like that. But there was one game that stood out above them all, and it was really trippy. It was called One Chance. Have you ever heard of this or
I
no?
have not.
Yeah, it's recognized, but it's not like a super huge, like everybody knows about it kind of thing, you know. But what it was is you're a scientist, and it's like really crude. It's not like they're not in it for the graphics.
No, it's like
they're
pixel
they're
art.
not trying to win the awards or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
But you're like a scientist, and the first thing that comes on the screen, it says like you have 10 days or something. That's all it says. And what ends up happening is like you wake up in your home, you have your wife and your kid, right? And you go to work. You know, you can choose it's just like this or this kind of thing.
Okay.
It's like go to work, stay home, or you know, I don't know, like whatever. And so if you go to work, then it says like that you go out and on your front doorstep there's a paper, and so there's a strange virus that's been going around and nobody knows about it, like what it's like. And as you go to work, you're like, oh dang, this is a big deal. And then eventually with each day, you know, you just do normal things. Like you just go to work, you come home, you know, you say hi to your wife or whatever, right? And with each day, it gets worse and worse. And eventually it starts saying, like, instead of just like you have 10 days, it'll say like in 5 days, the entire human race will be eradicated. And then you're like, oh dang, like. But then there's weird things that happen. Like your wife gets depressed, and so she's like, I don't know, like, I'm not feeling good today, like, and you can go to work, and that's what I ended up doing in the game. And you come home, and she like unalives herself.
Oh
like,
wow!
Straight up, it's like a heavy game.
It's called One Chance.
Yeah.
Let's check it out.
And And at the end, I'm just gonna spoil it for you,
Yeah.
straight up,
You die.
because I already started it, right?
Spoiler
But-
alert for one chance right here.
right. This is spoiler alert, yeah. And sorry, Tom.
Skip ahead
You'll still enjoy
30
it.
seconds if you don't
Right,
want to hear
right. I'll say it in 30 seconds.
it.
No, but in the end, uh, wherever you're at, I didn't solve anything. And you sit on a park bench, and if you have your daughter, I had my daughter, so she was like there with me, and it says, and then it just doesn't
The
say
end.
anything actually. You're just sitting there. But here's the thing about it, man. So I was like, okay, that was weird. I'm gonna try again. So I refreshed the page, and it was the same picture.
Can't
And
play
you're
it
just
again.
sitting there, yeah.
You can only play it once.
Right, and then like I came back a week later.
Really?
Yeah, still there.
That's interesting.
And I was like,
I'm gonna have to look it up.
a heart.
So, like, is there a way to finish the game, like save, humanity, or is it just?
Well, people have, I've looked into it. So there's different endings and stuff, and like there's a way where you can save humanity. I think it comes at a cost though. Like, you have to go to work every single day or something, and like,
Interesting.
dude, it is a trip. Like
One
it is so
chance.
heavy.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's cool.
One chance.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and so there are things like that where like games make huge statements sometimes where you're
Oh, yeah.
like, whoa, dang, like they're not just trying to entertain people.
I
Like,
don't know.
like this is entertainment.
It's kind of cool too in a way because a lot of times you could see both sides of arguments.
Right.
Because a lot of times you already know what you think to be good or
Right.
noble or however you want to look at it, and then you'll play a game sometimes, and the game will have you do things that you wouldn't normally think would
Right.
be
Right.
the good guy would do,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
sometimes there's collateral damage kind of thing. Like sometimes you have to do things that you wouldn't normally do in order to
Right.
save the world or however you want to look at it,
Right.
depending on what the story is. So it's sometimes in like how games sometimes allow you to choose to be good or evil or however you want to be, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a way that you could be evil if you're normally a good person. You could see what it's like to be evil without actually hurting people in real life.
That is a fair case. Yeah. Yeah.
But so
Yeah,
there's games like that. Like Knights of the Old Republic almost had that in it, where you had the choice
Right.
to be dark side or light side
Yeah.
towards the end.
I think the second one really hammered on that morality issue.
Yeah.
Because like the main character, Kreia, or I mean, you're the main character.
Yeah, yeah.
But she was like the one who was kind of
On the
like, what
fence.
the heck?
Yeah.
Like, and she's saying like she's criticizing both sides. She's like, yo, power, hungry, all that. That's not where it's at. Also living by this code that dehumanizes. I guess I don't know. Can you say dehumanizes people? The galaxy? I don't know.
Yeah. I guess,
The creature.
Creature.
I don't know.
Yeah, humanize, I guess, because that's
The
where we'll go.
understanding of what that
She was
means.
what she liked going down the gray path kind of.
Right,
thing, where
right.
It's like she tried to, which if
Yeah.
you look at it, I'm a big Star Wars nerd. I mean, a lot of people are, but if you look at it, some of the things that they say, it's like, well, the Jedi weren't exactly,
Right.
taking kids away from their parents when they were little and
Right.
and
Weird stuff,
indoctrinating
yeah.
them into those.
Have you heard of that? There's like a psychological test. Obviously, and thank God for this, but there's like a psychological test that policemen have to take.
Which they should.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not. No system is like perfect.
No.
People slip through and stuff.
Absolutely.
But one of the questions, my uncle told me this. He's a retired LAPD cop, and he was telling me like, one of the questions is, if someone's speeding, and you pull them over, and you come up to the door and it's your mom, do you give them a ticket?
You should. If all rules are for everyone, you should.
Right.
Do you? Probably not.
Right.
Unless
Right.
you don't like your mom, I guess.
I mean, yeah, and that's like the psychological thing. Is like, do you
You should.
like legally? You should.
Yes. Morally, do you let her off with the warning?
Right.
Probably.
Yeah. And you know what's so interesting is when he asked me that, I was like, bro, you gotta give her a ticket. I don't care who that is. Like, you gotta give her a ticket. Like,
Yeah.
that's the law. And he says, he told me I would have failed that question.
So you're not supposed to if it's. See, but to me that just undermines being a police officer.
Well, the
'Cause you
thing
can't
is,
hold
I mean, if
different
your
people
mom,
to different.
if your mom
standards.
is like recklessly driving,
No,
almost
and that's what I
know,
said. You should, but
Right.
for the question's purpose,
Mhm.
you should answer yes. I think.
Right.
Because if
right.
not, then you're already starting off to
But-
where, okay, there's a different set of rules for people that I like and a different set of rules for people that I
Right.
don't like, and that to me
Yeah. Well, you see, because it's a psychological
Yeah,
evaluation.
I see.
And so what he was explaining, I was like, what? Because I was saying the same thing. I was like, so what? You're all of a sudden, your homie is selling
Yeah,
crack, and
it's
you just
cool.
let him
Just
go,
to,
like.
yeah,
But he was saying, well, the point is like, if your mental state is if your mind is in the state of like, um, I will, I will cause like I forgot the way he said it, but essentially like if you're willing to put put your own household in a state of crisis,
yeah,
then you don't have the mentality to be a cop because you're supposed to care for people.
yeah. Because I mean, it's always going to be some sort of I don't know how you would put it, but like circumstances are gonna
Right. It's like a nuance, like
situational type thing.
Yeah.
Yes, because for one, you don't want them just like blindly following all of the laws, then you become like the SS.
Like a
You know what
tyrant.
I mean?
Yeah,
You're like
yeah.
the stormtroopers, basically.
Exactly.
Kill everybody, whatever. It doesn't matter. If they
Right.
told me to do it, I got to do it. You know.
Right.
So you have to think for yourself sometimes, but still, if your mom's breaking the law, your mom's breaking the law.
Right.
I'm not saying I would give my mom a ticket because
Right.
I probably would not.
Right. And like
Or-
I think the thing is if you did, I don't think you would get reprimanded for it.
My mom would be probably like, I'm sure she would have some choice words, but she
Yeah.
would, in the end, my mom would understand. My father, on the other hand, he would have not been happy. My mom would be like, I get it, it's your job, okay.
Right.
But my dad would have been like, he would have
Right.
he would have definitely said some four-letter words to me
Right. Right. Yeah. I guess it's like the idea of like, will you be responsible with the authority that you're granted in a sense that. And it's funny because absolutely, like I'm in the same boat where I think like, well, responsibility would be upholding it no matter
Yeah.
what.
Because you can't have two different
But
standards.
right. But sometimes what it takes to be, because like if you just like we were just saying, like if you just dehumanize people,
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of, how is that upholding the freedom that we stand for here?
Correct.
You know.
And I think probably a better way to ask the question would be like, okay, you pull somebody over there, they're speeding, but they're trying to get to the hospital because their wife is having a baby. Do you still
Right.
give them a ticket,
Right.
or do you help them get to the hospital faster?
Right. Dude, what's funny is I've heard both stories.
You know what I mean?
My buddy got a ticket, but okay, he did run a red light though.
That's a little more
So
than
that's
speeding.
a little different.
Yeah, because that's how you kill people.
Yeah.
Speeding, sometimes you can get away with speeding because you just know how to drive enough and
Right.
just not take too many chances. But running a red light, that's a little.
Yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah.
I mean, that could have been bad for all three of us.
Yeah, especially when she was having a baby.
Right.
See, that's rough. That,
Yeah.
that turned out extremely bad.
So not naming any names, but,
Did he get a ticket though?
Yeah, he got a ticket, and he
can't be mad about it.
yeah, he paid it off and all that.
I'm sure the police officer was like, I understand, but
Yeah,
I
he's
have
like, oh,
to
okay,
do that.
here you go, yeah.
I'll give you a police escort to the hospital.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's the moral dilemma, you know. That's a Spider-Man. What is it? With great power comes
Right.
great responsibility, kind of
Right.
thing.
Yes,
You know.
great power. Yeah,
But
and I mean, talk about see, because like morality is like an interesting subject because it seems like nowadays like it's difficult for people to agree. A lot of people believe that morality is like a social construct. I disagree. I think morality is. I think there are set rules of morality. What do you think about that? Like, do you think morality is a social construct or what?
you know, morality is almost like the basis for civilized society,
Mhm.
to an extent.
Right.
Everybody has different moral compasses, and what they deem to be moral, like what I think is moral compared to what you think is moral, might be different. But I think that
Right.
the basic human rights, I guess you would even say, like,
Right.
you don't just have the morally, you can't just go kill somebody, or morally
Right,
you can't
right.
just, this or that. But
So,
I don't think it's, I mean,
well, like I mean, okay, like because I think I'm following what you're saying. Like, is it moral to smoke cigarettes? I mean,
I don't know if that'd be a moral question.
right.
If you're just doing it to yourself, I don't think
Right.
there's anything wrong with it. Now, if
Right.
you have children trapped in something and you're smoking around them, or somebody
Right.
that does not want to be involved in the whole smoking thing,
Right.
then it might be going over into a moral
Right.
thing. Because, like, who are you to think that you could, affect these people because of something that you want to do? Now, if
Right,
you want to do it to
sure.
yourself, have at it. That's my thing. If you're not hurting
Right.
anybody else, I don't care what you do. Honestly,
Right.
as long as you're not hurting anybody else.
Right.
As long as you're not hurting anybody else,
Don't hurt people.
do whatever you want to do. And I don't think people. And as long as you're an adult, I don't think people should have much to say about it because if you're only hurting yourself, I mean, who's to say you can't do that?
Right. What do you think about, and not to,
Yeah,
here we are, we're diving into the deep end.
dive into whatever.
But what do you think about, so morality. So not harming others, probably a good moral code.
It's probably a good idea, no matter what your moral compass is.
Right.
That's probably one of the number one rules.
Right.
I would imagine.
What do you think about, so you don't, what do you think about, like, societal influence on that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we're in an age now where there's a lot of opinions of what's moral and what's not moral.
Right.
A lot of differing opinions.
Mm.
And like I said, if you're an adult, who's to tell you what's moral and what's not moral? But I mean, society also obviously plays a huge part because you become desensitized to things.
True.
Things that you would normally, 50 years ago, stuff that we see now on a daily basis that we don't even bat an eye out. People would have lost their mind over, and it's.
Right.
It's,
Yeah. No, I mean, and then there's other things about, the most classic example of, like massive, like widespread moral, I don't even know, it's like compromise, just like moral misunderstanding, I guess, or something. And that's even like an understatement, would be like Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Because they all thought they were doing what was
the
right.
right thing, yeah.
And that's what I would consider to be like, well, that was societal. I mean, who's to say that they were wrong if they all agreed?
Correct.
And
it's a point of view.
Right, and I disagree with that.
No, absolutely.
I think that it was wrong.
History has proved that was not moral. But
Right.
at the time, the people, I know a lot of them probably did it because they were afraid for their own lives to speak up against it.
Sure.
So, not that that's an excuse. But,
Right.
you do a lot
it is
of
a
stuff
factor.
if you're afraid for your family and your life. That's obviously a horrible thing. And,
Right.
you would hope that would never be repeated ever again because it's just insane. But
Right.
yeah, morality is a weird question because everybody has different views on it. Especially nowadays, there's a lot of weird stuff going on.
Yeah. No kidding.
But
Very strange. Yeah, and
interesting time to be alive.
so where do you think different moral perspectives come from? Obviously, like there are some obvious things. Like for instance, like me, like obviously my moral compass comes from like the Bible. Like that's what I consider like
Absolutely.
that's what's true.
Yeah, and me, like being the non-religious person that I am, I still like even. I think that the Bible does set up, and most religions do set up a great moral like guideline to go by. And I live my life similar to a lot of those, but I just don't believe in the whole religious aspect of it. But all of the things that they're teaching you, I would say are good.
Right.
As
I'd
far
say for
as
the most part.
For the most part, some of the stuff is.
There are some. There's some whack things and different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Different ancient texts that you're like, I don't know if you should kill the infidels.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Maybe just talk with them.
yeah,
But it's.
let's just have a conversation.
But then again, you have to also think, like I said, 50 years ago, what we considered to be moral compared to now are two different things. So you think back, whatever
Right.
religion says how old it is. I don't know exactly. I'm not an expert, but thousands of years, hundreds of years, whatever it is, the morality definitely changed from then till now. And
Well, let me ask you this. I'm not. It's just a conversation.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
You can ask me whatever you want.
Right, and that's what I like about you, Tom.
And I'll be as honest as I can.
But so like, if everybody universally agreed that murder was okay, so just opinion, every person though,
Said if murder was okay.
would murder still be wrong, or would that make it okay because everyone agrees it's okay?
It's an interesting question. It would be perspective. Why are you murdering that person? Did they do something that deserved it? Did they do something to you?
Right.
Did they do something to society, or we're just like randomly choosing somebody to go murder?
And I'm not talking about like I'm not talking about like capital punishment or something.
No, you're talking about just killing somebody.
Like yeah, like yo, like yeah, people kill people all the time
For no reason, you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I would have to answer yes, it's wrong. I
Right.
mean, you should have taking somebody's life is like the ultimate thing you can do.
Right.
You better have a good reason to do it.
Right.
I mean, a
Right.
really good reason.
Right.
Obviously, like saving yourself or a family member, or
Right.
it's why it's so hard.
Yeah, I think
it's a tough question. I would think that it would still be wrong,
right.
but it's
and
legal.
I think in lies the essence of like what I believe true morality to be, like, is I believe like it's set,
like you can't change what's moral and what's not
like
moral.
I don't and I think I do agree with you in a sense that like maybe 50 years ago like it wouldn't be considered like, or I guess we'd have to say more so along the lines of like 70 years ago at this point, right? Because
like women in a bathing suit, it was seen to be immoral. You had to wear those crazy long things, and now they can wear two pieces. And if they were to wear that to the beach back, like you said, they would go to jail probably.
And then then you got France, where they're just, they're just letting them hang.
Yeah,
but I would say like there, and that's that is that to me, and I know that you like because you don't believe in God.
No.
And so for me, that actually to me is essence. That's like proof that, or I'm not sure like proof, but it is something that points to God, in a sense that God would make us all. Because I think it's pretty much universal. There are certain things where like don't murder.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why? If it's survival of the fittest, what if murdering gets you to the top?
People do it.
And you should do that, right? You should do that if that's the case. But I'm not saying that. I'm saying that within the...
No, I understand what you're saying, but I think that's not like an answerable question, really. Because obviously, but still, another way to look at it is there are things still that are considered to be moral that are legal or however you say it, but that I just don't do because I don't like it. Right. So you can still, just because it's okay, it's legal to kill people, like you said, murder, doesn't mean you would have to do it.
Right. It's legal to break into people's cars.
Oh, that's not mine, yeah,
but... No.
But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, just because everybody agrees with it doesn't mean you have to do it. You could just, once you're outnumbered to the point to where you can't do anything about it, you could just, your way of protesting it would be just to not partake in it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I do know what you mean.
But
at the same time, like, we go back to Nazi Germany, and I know that that's such an that is the most extreme example.
Both of them are extreme. The question,
that's where I feel like that's where things lead. Because there's this book called Ordinary Men, and it's talking about like how Nazis they weren't like they were brainwashed to a certain extent, but they started out as just like policemen, just normal, and then they said, they were like, yo, I'd never like just randomly kill someone just because I don't think that they're a human being or something like that.
People get caught up in
but one thing after the next led these ordinary men to do horrendous things,
The power that came along with it probably was a lot of it.
And I would say that that's one of the dilemmas, though, is that like to not speak out against the Nazi regime because everybody is.
Well, you would be dead.
True.
Because they would kill you, and that's self-preservation.
Yo, and then that's another that's another moral crazy thing because I'm like, okay, maybe in general you shouldn't lie. So the Nazis come to your door, hey, you got any Jews hiding here?
And you do. You say no. Yeah,
that to me, I feel like that's like the moral thing to do.
It absolutely is, and that's the thing. It's situational.
Right.
Obviously, like you said, there's a moral code that everybody should live by, but there comes a time and a place to break those morals.
Yeah.
So that's why it's nobody is perfect, and nobody on earth can pretty much say that they've never done something immoral. We've all lied at some point.
Right.
We've all done something that we, wish we hadn't done probably, or if we could do it again, would not have done it that way.
Right.
No,
it's definitely the definition of, like, we have the word sin, like, in the Bible, and people cringe at that word because it's come to be synonymous with things that is like an opinion kind of thing, you know. But the original like word translates. It's like a archery word actually, and if you miss the mark, then you've sinned.
Gotcha.
And the whole implication is that it says, you know, the Bible says all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And what is the glory of God? The glory of God is perfection,
Okay.
you know. And so like we've all sinned. We've all missed the mark of perfection.
Yeah, everybody has, especially as
Right.
children. I mean, you don't know
Right.
from wrong as well as an adult should.
Yeah, and no one needs to teach a little kid how
Yeah.
to.
And I mean, you can only teach them so much. They're still going to do bad
Right,
things.
right.
That's just the way it is. So, you know.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Those kids get crazy. You know.
But yeah, no, it's an interesting question what you're saying, and I definitely agree with what you're saying to an extent. I mean, the Nazi thing's a little. It's a tough
extreme.
one, but what you're saying is right, and I mean, oof, it's rough. It's rough.
Right. So I mean, I guess I mean there's I don't know. There's like a million different directions to take
Yeah.
a conversation like that. You know.
No,
What I'm interested in
Yeah.
for this and now, you know, is you actually have a unique worldview. I know this because we've talked.
Yeah.
You know, if you were to ask most people, do you believe in the unseen realm? They would say yes. If I were to ask you this though,
I would say no.
no, that's a hard no. Too.
Hard no. I mean, I shouldn't say hard no. I haven't seen anything in my life that would make me think that there's something unseen realm, like you said. I'm assuming you're meaning like ghosts and like spirits and,
Well,
and
yeah,
gods and
yeah.
things like that.
I would specifically refer to like angels, demons, God,
Yeah.
Satan, things like that. You don't think there's none of that, huh?
No.
And that is so interesting to me. Like,
I wish it were, because like I love horror movies and I
Right,
love
right.
fantasy and all that stuff like that, but I just don't think that there is. You know, I wish that there was,
right,
but I mean, I have to go with what, at least from my point of view, I kind of have to see something to make me believe that. And I'm not saying that down the line in life something may not happen to me where it could change my view of it,
right,
but as of right now, I would have to say no. I don't.
right. I mean, so you're telling me though, I'm just like,
Yeah, no, ask me.
you said you're 47, I think you said,
Mhm.
right? That's a great number, by the way.
Mhm.
5 years over 42, and we all know what 42 is about. You know what I'm saying? The answer.
Oh,
Five
yes,
years-
yes.
No, but
Hitchhiker's Guide.
right. But so you're in your entire life, you've never seen or experienced or even heard of something that you believe that you're like, huh, like there's that though.
No,
I mean, I don't believe in spirits. I don't believe in none of that. But there is that one thing. Nothing like that, huh?
nothing, man. Like everything that I've ever seen or heard can usually be, explained through science. Like there's a logical explanation for what happened, and I just haven't. I've watched a lot of documentaries and stuff like that, and I want to, but it's always like nothing's ever pushed me over to where it would make me believe that there is something else. And like my belief is basically that once we're just like ants, just on a larger scale.
Yeah.
Like we sit and we watch ants go about their thing, and to them their world is like our world. Like that's
like complicated.
Yeah,
Right.
but to us it's not so much. So it's like
It is
we're
interesting.
just
So why? I mean, what do you say to the ants that don't believe that humans are real?
then.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I haven't. I haven't.
Well, the thing is,
you know what I'm saying?
they've seen us pick up their friends and do whatever with them. We've never witnessed that.
I mean,
as humans.
Okay, that is fair. I mean, but like, okay, but there's certain things like, okay, so like, for instance, people. So what do you make of like spiritual experiences? Do you think that's just emotions and chemicals rolling around in your brain?
Yeah.
You're just kind of fooling yourself.
I don't know about fooling yourself necessarily, but I think that if the human brain is pretty powerful, and like if you really want something and want something to happen, I think that your brain can manifest something for you like that. Like as far as like the different,
Right, like confirmation.
yeah,
bias
hormones and
whatever,
stuff like you said that can be set off. Like if you want to be scared, you can watch a scary movie, and that releases some kind of hormone that gives you that scared feeling, and you like that. or watch
Right.
a happy movie that does the same thing. I think that you could probably manifest some spiritual stuff in your mind, but
Well, I
maybe
mean,
I'm just not one.
right.
Maybe I
You
just
mean like just spiritual? Because like saying that indicates that it is a spiritual thing happening.
or what you
But
perceive to be spiritual,
So you would say more so along the lines of like spiritual hallucinations.
or anything like that, or you feel the Holy Spirit in you, or whatever it may
Right.
be. I don't know. I don't want to speak to stuff like that because I don't really know a
Sure.
lot about that. I don't want to come off
That's
as
fair.
being
Hey, it's fair.
talking about stuff I don't know about, but I just yeah, I don't know, man. And it's and it would be nice, the whole heaven thing, to be able to all your family's gonna be waiting for you, or whoever, however it works out. But just think that I think once you die, it's just like turning off the TV.
You think it's just blank.
That's it.
It's like when you sleep or something.
Make the most of it, because this is it. That's what I think.
Well, what? Okay, so you just said essentially, but essentially you, in a way, kind of answered this. But you say that you want to believe.
Yeah, I wish, because it's like a fairy tale to me. Like, it would be
Mhm.
nice that there was a fairy tale ending
Right.
to life.
Right. And
Right.
they all lived happily
Yeah,
ever
exactly.
after, right?
And you got to go up to heaven and be with your family and all your past relatives and friends, and whatever your religion believes in. And it would be nice,
Mhm.
but
Well, okay, I'm gonna hit you with a hard one
hit me,
now, okay?
hit me, hit me.
Because I know you're down for it.
I'm
bro.
whatever,
Hold
man.
on a second. Let's check this time. Yeah. Okay. Good. Jesus.
Yeah.
A historically documented. Everybody unanimously agrees, unless you're just completely ignorant,
Yeah,
that Jesus was a real person.
I do believe that.
Right. Christians believe, and pretty much exclusively Christians believe, Christian, Christian,
Gotcha.
like Christian, exclusively believe that Jesus was God.
Okay.
And I'm sure you might have heard a little bit of like what the gospel is, that he took on our sins and he rose from the grave.
Yes.
Do you believe that he rose from the grave? Because that would be
I do not.
that would be a hardcore proof spiritual thing.
This is the thing, and I'm gonna break this down to you, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody.
No, it's all good, dude.
But I do
This-
believe
yeah.
that Jesus and most of the people in the Bible we're probably real people. And I mean, was he doing magic, like turning water to wine and healing people? I mean, probably not, because there's guys now that are sleight of hand guys, like David Blaine or those magician guys that can make you see some stuff that you'd be like, wow, like
Right.
if you took him back then, he probably would have been killed for being like a witch or something, but he would have been doing stuff that Jesus did, as far as like, you know what I mean, magic tricks, sleight of hand tricks.
So those things. So you don't believe that? You don't think any of that really happened?
No, because I mean, look at some of the stories, even in like the rose from the grave thing. I mean, I'm not saying that they didn't think he died and put him in there. Maybe he wasn't really dead.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he came out. It appeared to be that he came back from the dead, even because he wasn't actually dead yet.
Mm.
I
mean, I don't know. I mean,
but no, and
this is where the pushback comes.
Yeah.
Is the historical documentation.
But how? I mean, you could write anything.
Right. But
There's some other crazy historical
you also
documentation
you also gotta realize that this new in the westernized media age, you can just write anything.
Absolutely.
And it could be
You
true.
could have always done that.
But not
We
quite.
have pictures now, though. That's the difference.
There were ancient laws that if you
There's ancient laws now. Oh, there's laws now. People
right,
still do it.
there are laws now. No, but the ancient laws you have to understand. Like for instance, if a scribe mistranslate, say someone was rewriting the Bible, okay, if you mistranslated the Bible, that was an offense worthy of the death penalty.
Which is crazy.
Which is crazy, but the fact that, I mean, it's something you point to where it's like historians and stuff, they were held to a high standard of record keeping and stuff like that.
And I do understand that, but I just...
And there were the Gnostics and the storytellers and things like that, and like, but I mean, these people, I mean, you realize every single disciple except for Jesus, every single disciple got murdered for their beliefs because they were saying this is true, and everyone was saying say it's not true or we're gonna kill you. And they're like, I don't know what to tell you. It's true. And they're like, okay, we're gonna kill you.
It's just
Okay.
like the witch trials, you know, that
Right.
they went through.
Right.
Most of those women, I mean, obviously there's no witchcraft. Like, I don't
Right.
believe that there's magic or stuff like that. Like,
Right.
but
I'm-
these
right.
poor women, you know, were murdered.
True. But I mean, that's a
We're
little
gonna
bit
test you.
different,
Like, if we put you in this water and you drowned, then
Yeah,
you were not a witch.
yeah.
But if you don't drown, then you're a witch and we burn you.
Well, no, but
It's not the same.
I don't think it's the same. No, because the challenge was against the lordship of the authorities at the time.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying.
Like the
And-
religious leaders hated Jesus,
Yeah.
dude.
Well, that's the problem is whoever was in charge, in power, forced their beliefs on people, and if not, then you were, like you said, put to death because you challenged their beliefs.
Yeah, but for what reason would you? I mean, would you really carry a story that you made up to the grave just because you didn't, like, because of a pride thing or something? Like,
Well,
and
no,
not only that,
no.
but not just you, but your friends.
No, I get what you're saying, but then you have to also go back to how people get caught up in stuff.
Go on.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, for example, nowadays with the how politically charged everything is, like people are so over the top with some of this political stuff as far as like it's
Right.
almost turned into a religion
No kidding.
to
for
where
sure.
they're willing to kill somebody else or harm somebody because they are a different political idea. You know, it's just gotten out of hand. But see, people get swept up in stuff like that, and you know,
Right.
some of them are willing to die for it, even though they don't know, you know, if it's true or whatever, what have you.
Well, yeah.
You know? But I'm not saying that, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying
Right.
what I believe, and I just don't think that is what happened. I
Right.
don't. I'm sorry. It's not my belief.
Let me ask you this: if it did happen, I mean, like, okay, maybe let me rephrase it. Okay, what would be considered proof to you?
I mean,
And not in a sense that I'm trying to convince you
No,
of anything, but you're saying like I want to believe in these things.
it would
and
be
you
nice.
don't because you haven't seen enough or
Some
something.
kind of proof, man. Like something
but
like
like what?
if God was so all powerful, why couldn't He just come down and say, "Hey, you guys are tripping right now. This is what's supposed to be going down." And then I think that 100% of the people would be like, "Okay."
I don't know, dude.
A
'Cause
really high percentage of the people would
you
at
know,
least,
you know
because there
what,
are people that are mentally challenged and
Well,
whatnot.
I mean, you know what Christians believe about Jesus?
What?
They believe God came down and told everyone, y'all are tripping. And they nailed him to a cross because of it.
Okay, well, if He did it, but see, it would have to be God, not because. Do you believe that God and Jesus are the same person?
Yes.
Because don't they say that Jesus was God's only son that He gave?
This is a complicated thing. And it comes across as like a self-conscious or like a, you know, it's a question a lot that Muslims bring up with Christians. But it's this thing called the Trinity. Have you ever heard of the Trinity?
The Father's.
Father, Son, and the Holy
Yeah,
Spirit,
yeah.
right? And what Christians believe is that God is of a nature that is beyond our comprehension. Because if we could comprehend who God is and know exactly what everything means and piece it together in our westernized, scientifically minded perspective, then He wouldn't be God. He would just be something we came up with in our heads. And so the Trinity is something that Christians, and again, I don't, honestly, at this point in my life, I don't care that it sounds like a dismissive, like avoiding the question kind of thing, but I believe that Christians have humbled themselves in a sense to say, I don't know how this works, but God is the Father, and God is the Son, and God is the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is not the Father, and the Father is not the Son, and the Son is not the Holy Spirit. It's like a higher dimension. It's like a higher mode of
I get what you're saying.
existence that we can't really
But
comprehend.
my question would be like, okay, we don't have to understand how God did it.
Mhm.
All we would want to know is that God is really there. Show us that you're there.
Okay.
And not be like, oh, look outside and you see that. No, that doesn't work that way.
Well,
I
I
want to
mean,
see like actual him, like somebody come down or whatever it may be.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Jesus came down,
But
bro.
see, but no, he
Just
did.
say it.
But the thing is if he was a god, would he be able to be slayed like that?
Mm. Um, Jesus gave his life. There, dude, this is
But then he came back, so he didn't really give his life
well.
for a
He
day.
laid down his life. Yeah,
Or
three
however many,
three
3
days.
days.
Bro. No, but, well, check this out, man. This um. So a lot of people, I believe you do too, kind of know of the story of the crucifixion. And I know you don't know all the details and
No.
stuff, right? But essentially, like the main points is like Judas betrayed Jesus. Like that's something that a lot of people know about. Jesus was crucified on the cross. He died. He rose again 3 days later. Like that's the story of the gospel, you know. And there are specific details. Like he died because he was facing the wrath of God. He was taking on the sin of mankind, and the wages of sin is death. Therefore, he takes on sin. He dies in our place. Like that's the gospel, right? Risen by the power of the Holy Spirit. Like there's these little like nuanced like specific details that are added in there. One of them, and this is so interesting. One of them is Jesus is in the garden, and Judas comes to betray him, and he tells like the leader of the of the essentially the group of people who want to see this man accused and killed. He tells him, "Oh, I'm going to betray Jesus with a kiss." Right? You might have heard that too. Like
I haven't
Jesus.
heard that one.
Right. So he comes over. He's like, "Brother."
Oh, as far as a kiss like that.
Right. Not like a
That's what I was like. I haven't heard that one.
but like like a brotherly.
Gotcha.
Near
Like
Eastern.
a greeting.
Yeah, exactly. And and when they come up, they say, the leader of the guard says, "We're looking for Jesus of Nazareth." And Jesus says, "I am he." And it's like a battalion of guards, and they all are literally blown back, like off their feet, like not like whoa, but like they all like fall back,
Okay.
right? And so then they get back up, and they're like, "Yo, we're looking for Jesus," and he's like, "I am he," and it doesn't happen. And commentators would say that was recorded because Jesus was displaying he actually was in control. And like Peter, Peter's a funny character in the Bible because he's like rash with his words and with his actions. He just like does stuff, and sometimes he's right, and sometimes like, dude, you're jumping the gun. What he does is when they go to seize him, he's like, "Not today!" and he takes out a sword and he cuts off one of the guard's ears, and Jesus actually rebukes him, and he says, "Stop! Like, you do realize who I am. Like, if I wanted to, I can call on a whole army of angels to take these guys away."
So he was powerful enough to not
Right.
have it happen, but he had it happen so that he
Right.
could take.
For you, for me, for the sins of the world, right? And he says, "Nobody takes my life. I lay it down willingly." And so, like, the interesting thing about Jesus is, I think he's sort of sort of. Jesus is probably the most misunderstood figure in all of history. I mean, pretty much. Like, but you're right. If he was God, wouldn't he? And they were even while he was on the cross, like the people were mocking him and saying, "Yo, he can save people, but he can't save himself. Like, how would you go ahead and walk up off the cross, Jesus?" But anyway, so that's the reason why he was subject to that, is because he subjected himself to it. He was like, "I know what I need to do, and I'm going to fulfill the gospel, like like a payment, like all these things, sins, right, missing the mark, like essentially what the gospel presents is that these don't go without, like God doesn't just, "Oh, okay, it's okay, like I understand," you know what I'm saying, like It's all good. Like,
Let's not do it again.
right. God takes this very seriously. You know, for instance, like a murder. The reason why it's so bad is, for one, a person ceases to exist. So you're taking it into your own hands to decide whether or not this person exists or not, which is that's like the root of the
That'd
sin.
probably be the worst sin, I imagine.
Right, and that's easy to look at and be like, yo, that's whack.
Yeah, that's
but the effects of sin as well, like that person had family and friends.
the
And
ripple effect.
that person contributed something to society. I mean, sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Some people deserve to die,
I mean,
in my eyes.
I look, I'm pro capital punishment, so I'm with it, dude. Okay? There's some, like, I think Hitler, yeah.
Yes.
And even not as extreme, like someone like Ted Bundy,
Yeah.
yeah, death penalty,
There's
it fits.
some horrible people out there
Right.
that have some mental problems and they need to be.
Right. But the effects of sin is like, it's like a ripple, like, it's like an echo, you know? Like, and essentially that's why it is what it is. And it's the weight of the gospel, you know?
I get what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, and I can't get behind it. But I get what you're saying, and I think that everybody should be able to believe what they want to believe, and and whatever makes you happy or whatever.
Like fulfillment,
Well,
or satisfaction.
Yeah, exactly.
something,
Gives
yeah.
you fulfillment and satisfaction in your life. If that's what it is, you know what? Cool, man. Like
Mm.
all these different religions and stuff, I don't have a problem with them. I'm just not a religious person.
Right.
I know plenty of people that are like you. You're my friend, and we're like probably opposite ends as far as
Right.
spirituality goes. But
I believe like things
we're
are
still good
more
friends.
spiritual than not.
Yeah, and I don't believe in any of that stuff. But I could be wrong, and I'm not saying I'm not wrong.
Mhm.
But I live my life as a good person. I try not to do horrible things to people that don't deserve it, and
Well,
you know.
let me run this by you. And I do want to ask you a little bit more.
Yeah.
Not so much of a, because in a way I am challenging you a little bit
No,
because
it's
we
fine.
we are on opposite ends, you know.
We are.
But I do want to come back and ask you some questions, just whatever.
Yeah.
Just asking you about your perspective on things. So.
Sure.
But what do you make of how do I say this? Like, I guess it's sort of like tying in a lot of things we talked about, maybe aside from like video games.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a little bit more. Like,
That was just some fun stuff.
right.
This is a hard-hitting question.
Yeah, like, what do you make of the consequences of, man, how the heck do I say this? Like, do you think that there should be, like, you think God should care? You know what I'm saying? I know you don't believe in God, but
I would think if there was a God that he would have to, because it'd be like not caring about your children.
right,
Because what you guys believe is that he created everything, everybody.
right,
So, I mean, if you created something, it's almost like creating a child.
Mhm.
You would hope morally you should care about your child and not just let them run amok.
Mhm.
But, at a certain point, they kind of gotta care about themselves, kind of thing. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
To where it's not like you're always gonna care about them, but at some point he would have to leave you to your own choices, I guess, and
No, yeah, that makes sense.
and
I guess in the sense that, like, Ted Bundy should be punished,
absolutely.
you know. And it is an extreme example. Hitler,
Yeah.
kind of an extreme example.
Yeah, a little bit.
Whereas we look at someone like you and me, we're like, well, I mean,
Do we
I've
deserve to be
lied,
punished?
like, I've stolen some stuff.
But there's different levels of punishment.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess, like, accountability, I guess, is more of the word.
Accountability.
Maybe not so much punishment, but, like, because, again, like, going to, like, maybe what would be considered a lesser thing, depending on the magnitude of it. I mean, because it's all about a level.
Yeah.
Like, you can lie, like, be like, yo, did you send that thing in the other day? Oh, yeah, totally.
Totally, you did. Yeah. It's a
Or
lot different
like-
than, did you kill that person?
Right. No. No, but like, so like say like you steal a candy bar
Yeah.
or something. That's kind of like, still don't. You
Yeah.
know, that's not
You
good.
shouldn't
Like
do
say
it.
you steal like maybe a car, maybe off of a lot, or maybe you steal a car from somebody and nobody finds you, and that person now has to find a new car and
Yeah.
pay a large amount of money for that, and in the meantime they have to figure out transportation and stuff like that, and like,
It's kind of like our justice system to an
right,
extent when it works correctly. You know, there's
right,
different levels of punishment for different levels of crime.
right. Well, I mean, considering the ripple effect of missing the mark, right?
Yeah.
The rippling effect of sin. I mean, it contributes to like it contributes to a larger picture of like where, like you said, like there are certain things that just affect you. There are other things where small things, sure, maybe medium things, sometimes big things,
Oh yeah.
sort of contribute to like a society, like a cursed society,
Like,
essentially.
like it's gonna be the downfall of society. Like,
Right.
is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. Well, partly. I guess. Yeah. Again, it's sort of like, I don't know. I have like this idea in my mind, and I'm trying to put it into words. I guess it's like, I get okay. I'll say it like this, like maybe not in the form of a question. I would hope that that there's something to be done about all of this. You know, I would hope that the curse of humanity, they just continue to sin and sin and sin and whatever. I hope that there is something that would reverse
Consequences
that.
to that, or
Right, right.
and that would be one of my things. Like you said, what would be some sort of a proof that I would need to see? Be like, why wouldn't he come down and stop a person from doing just horrendous things if he has the ability to do that? And talk to them, be like, hey man, check what you're
Right.
doing, dude. This is insane.
Right, right.
You know, I'm not even saying kill them or whatever, but just speak to them.
But what would cause you to accept that as like? Because I mean, you don't, by your own admission just now, you don't really accept the record of Jesus and his life and death. And so,
Like I accept the fact that he existed.
right,
Do I accept the facts that he did all these magical things?
right.
Probably not.
And so God comes down today, and some guy's like mid stab. He's like, no, don't do it. And but what's to stop you from saying, well, that's just a nice guy who's crazy and thinks that he's
Well,
God.
because I wouldn't think God. Who knows what God looks like?
Right.
He would be like some godly form. You know, I mean, I don't know.
Right, outside of our dimension.
Yeah, like my mind is, I want to say warped, but it's like, you know, from playing fantasy games and stuff, you have an idea of what the gods looked like. They were
Right.
larger than, stuff like that.
Right.
So you would, if he did, I think that you would know in your mind that that's not something normal. That's like a whole nother level of something.
Right.
I would imagine.
No, yeah, that makes sense.
And not just, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it is.
come to the people and say, all right, look, check it out. I've given you this many years to do your
Right.
thing, and you guys are just going off the rails now. So let's rein it in,
Sure.
and to where everybody sees this.
Mhm.
I think that would be a huge. Obviously, you're like, okay,
Right.
well, it is. I mean, I can't. It's hard for me to just be like, just trust me.
Right.
You got to be
Well,
good, but you're
yeah.
not gonna find out till you die.
Right. Well, see, because that's the thing. It's like,
And that's hard for me to just say, okay.
right. And I mean, that's something I totally like. I'm not like. I really respect that about you. But I guess the thing that I don't understand is I feel like we both have similar. Believe it or not, I believe we both have similar perspectives of what what is valid. You know, I think you're a really reasonable person, and I as well try to
Yeah,
be.
you do.
And part of why I believe in Christianity and Jesus and God and the whole, is because I cannot deny what I've already found. So like for me to say like I'm not a Christian anymore, I would have to rack my mind and say like, well, what about like the archaeology? What about the historical accounts? What about like and I know like church history it seems like subjective because it's church history,
And
but
some of it is probably marred a little bit with like
Fair.
people that, because if you look back throughout history, a lot of people did a lot of crazy stuff in the name of religion. And
Fair.
I'm not saying that you should
No,
condemn
totally.
the religions for it,
Mhm.
but they did a lot of crazy stuff, and so
Right.
I think sometimes the stuff was written down to further their rise to power, or however you want to put it.
Right.
But yeah,
And I mean that's you know.
and that
but,
could be the same with any kind of history, really.
Right.
Because I mean,
But, I mean-
who writes history?
Right. Man.
The
Flawed
winners.
man.
The winners too.
Oh, okay. That's interesting too.
Because very rarely does nowadays more often because of technology and whatnot,
Mhm.
that both sides are seen. But if you go back throughout history, both sides weren't normally told.
Right.
It was normally told through
Right.
the winner's perspective, not the loser's perspective.
Right. Well, I mean, see, that's where I'm like, what? Because I agree, and there are 4 different gospels.
Okay.
It's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You might have heard of that, whatever.
I mean,
you know.
some of the names I've heard, but I
Right.
can't quote any of that.
Yeah, and it's all good. I mean, I don't expect you to, I mean, but they are from 4 different perspectives, and 4 different accounts of 4 different people from 4 different angles.
But they all
And-
have the same belief.
True, but it is a document of how they came to that belief. It's not like, hey y'all, like let's get together, because there are certain things like, and people point to this as like a flaw, right? But someone will say, okay, so say there's a situation, and like 2 guys come to Jesus, and they're talking about the kingdom of heaven and what it means to be in the kingdom of heaven or something. And a different gospel will say 4 men came to Jesus, and 2 of them began to speak to him. I was like, okay, well, one of them says 2 men came to Jesus, the other says 4. What is that?
Only 2 talked to him. Maybe they were talking
Right.
about that. Yeah,
And so,
perspective.
right. So there's different perspectives and such. But not only that, dude. That's what I'm saying is, the Bible is a record of the losers. Israel historically were weak. It was like a weak, and I'm not saying in an anti-Semitic way, because I know that that's going around. You know, freaking Kanye, what a turd, right? But you know, but historically, Israel was the underdog, constantly falling into captivity, constantly being self-destructive, constantly going against their own beliefs, like despite everything, you know. And the disciples, you know, were constantly ridiculed and mocked and imprisoned and beaten and persecuted. That's the word for it, is persecuted, you know.
Yeah.
And if that, you know, if that's not enough, Jesus, by like the world standards, was the biggest loser in history. He was broke, he was homeless, he never got married, he was rejected and despised, he was falsely accused, he was misunderstood, he was, he was beaten, you know, he became like the human loser. And so, like, that's what I'm saying. Is like,
but that's what he wanted.
well, I mean,
So was he really the loser?
he
If the outcome.
his statement was, the winners aren't winning. It looks like they're winning, but they're not. They get the whole thing backwards and upside down. Like, to put it in, you know, the new King Tom version, he came down and said, "Y'all are tripping. This is upside down. Yeah. Everything you think is right is wrong."
But,
and well, not everything you think is wrong is right.
But everything went according to the script that God had written, however you want to say it, right? That's how God wanted it to go down, was like that.
You know, it's funny because you unknowingly bring up controversial subjects within Christian.
But I mean, that's
Christianity.
right.
And so there are people who believe that there's no such thing as free will.
That everything is already predetermined.
Right. It's called like predestination.
I totally just jump on my head right now, but
right. But you won't, because
I don't want to die.
Right, and you were actually predestined to say that. There's other, right, you know what I'm saying? Like, but then there's other people who's a completely free will, um, you know, you know what I'm saying? Like, but and I personally believe it's somewhere in the middle. I would say that essentially, I think that the way things work, and the way things work, I'll just point to Jesus specifically. Okay, okay, hold on. For the broad answer of Israel, the disciples, Jesus, whatever, the whole story, the narrative of the Bible, I would say yes, that was specifically designed by God to show that it can't be these guys because they don't know what they're doing. They're falling on their face all the time. This has to be something greater than them, you know.
Okay.
And then when it comes to Jesus, I believe that, like, Christians believe that Jesus is the model human being. He is what Adam was supposed to be, you know.
Okay.
He was walking in and the reason for that is he was walking in complete submission to God, the Father, right?
Okay.
And again, that's the complicated Trinity thing. It's like whatever. But he says in the garden, you know, he's praying, you know, before he goes to the cross, and he actually asks God. He's like, is there any other way to do this? If there's any other way,
He's asking himself though.
well, he's right, but and again, it's complicated.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Because he put on humanity, and anyways, that's a whole nother. Yo, I should have. If you're willing, I think it would be cool if I had you and my brother, because he knows a lot more about. He's an actual pastor.
Yeah,
I'm
as long
just
as he
really
wasn't-
interested.
Wouldn't get offended because I would never want
No.
to offend your brother or you, anybody for that matter.
No,
Because I think you should be able to believe whatever you want to believe. I'm just saying what I believe.
Right. No, and that's not my goal either. I'm not trying to cause contention. I just appreciate good conversation.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I love having these conversations with you. We always have these conversations,
Right.
at work or wherever,
And it's always kind of like,
good.
you know. But anyways,
But no, I would be up for that.
yeah,
If your
yeah.
brother was willing to do that, I don't have a problem with it, and I like to ask questions as well because
Mhm.
I mean, you can't pretend to know everything. Nobody can pretend to know everything. And
Right.
It's good to hear things from different angles and different points of view, like we
Right.
were just talking about. And you know, if you can't learn from stuff like that, even if you don't agree with it, you should still be able to learn something from it.
Right, I agree.
And you never know; you could change somebody's point of view.
Yeah. And I'm not good at concise and quick answers, but I suppose maybe it's sort of along the lines of like C.S. Lewis, you know, the Narnia guy. Right.
Christian propaganda.
Right, yeah, the Christian propagandist. No. Imagine you start introducing people like that. Radical, you know, right agenda. C.S. Lewis, right? No, that's like the news today, huh?
It's
Radical anti-feminist.
radical.
No.
Everything's
Yeah.
radicalized. Like no matter what side you're on, it's radical. There's no more
Right.
people in the middle anymore.
Radical Christian totalitarianism writer,
Yes.
C.S. Lewis. No, but anyways, he says in this book called The Great Divorce, and it's talking. It's just like he's just exploring just an idea of what heaven might be like, you know. And towards the end of the book, people are introduced to heaven. A lot of them leave because they're like, "Hey, is my brother here or something?" He doesn't want to be here. And they're like, "Okay, well, I don't want to be here if he's not here." So they abandon all of heaven because of that. Like things like that, you know what I'm saying? It's just kind of exploring that, you know. But then in the end, he says, in the end, there are those who say to God, "Thy will be done," and then there are those who God says to them, "Thy will be done." And so the reason why I think that that's a fair answer is because, like, Jesus, that's a quote from Jesus, not the whole thing, but the beginning is Jesus saying to God the Father, "Thy will be done." Even though I don't want to do this, I have my own, like, human things that I want to do, I am going to walk in submission to you and your will. And so, yes, I think God did plan it. But also I think it was Jesus' decision to walk according to that plan and not according to his own.
So he didn't have to do it, but he decided to.
Right.
Even though, but see, that's what's hard for me because it's like if God wrote this, like you said, he only did it because he allowed him to do it. And if God is Jesus,
Right.
right?
Right.
then that was the way God wanted it to go down.
Right.
Because
And I see that.
why would he say no to himself?
Well, that's see, that's like that's where I would claim, and not, just in, I feel like more in humility than ignorance. I don't know.
Yeah, I got you.
But what I do know is I believe Jesus set up a model for us, and we also can walk according to that and say, I know I feel a certain way, and not as a jab or whatever.
No,
but
no,
like,
no.
I know I believe certain things. I'm going to choose to follow God and say, Your will be done.
Yeah.
Including belief.
I think that you should just be a good person.
Yeah. But why?
Because you just should be.
And then you die.
Because the world would be a better place if you were just a good person.
That's true.
I mean, I don't think that you should just be a good person so you can go to heaven or whatever it is you believe in.
Right. And I believe the
I
same
think you
thing,
should just
actually.
be a good person whether there's a heaven or not a heaven.
Right.
If everybody was just a good person, a good human, then we'll do it for 20 more seconds and then I'm out of here.
Okay.
But I think that if you just, we'll end it on this. I think if you're just a good person, that the world would be a better place and there wouldn't be so much madness going on like there is right now. And everybody could be happy to an extent. I mean, obviously there's always going to be stuff, but if you're just a good person, then we would all just get along.
Yeah, and I'm with that. And that's it. That's our time. Well, Bren, I would love to have you on.
And I would love to come back. I appreciate you having me on here and listening to me ramble a little bit. And
hey, dude, we're
like
both
always,
rambling.
Like always.
We're like sitting here, like, oh yeah, no.
No, I enjoyed it. This is my first time ever being on a podcast, and I had a good time, man. And
right on, man.
I hope to be back.
Heck yeah, I hope you have you back, Tom. I have to say, after all this, for the life of me, I can't tell if you're being serious.
I'm not. That was all a lie.
That's a wrap. Yeah.